I just got back from my very first fiber festival, and I of course brought home plenty of treasures. In this video, I'll be sharing the yarns and a few other goodies that came back with me. Since this is going to be a longer, chatty one, feel free to grab your current project and something warm to sip on, since it is basically fall as I'm making this video, and what better to do than some cozy crafting. So settle in as we go through all of my Fiber Festival finds together. Welcome to a lovely view of my desk, and I'm going to show you now, I guess, the interesting part of the video where I can show you each acquisition that I got at the Fiber Festival and talk about each one a little bit, describe it. Yeah, hopefully that will be interesting. And I'm also going to throw in what my sister got there as well, because I guess the more the merrier, and why not? So yeah, let's get into it. All right, here is the first, I guess, batch of yarn that I got. And none of this is really in any sort of order, like not the order in which I bought it or anything. Partially because I just can't remember what order I bought things in. And yeah, I don't think it really matters. So I'm just going to start off with this one. So I have 4 skeins of this brown and 1 skein of this. So let's start with the brown. All right, this first yarn that I've got is from Tall Tale Ranch, and they have llamas and exotic peafowl as well as being a fiber art studio located in Colbran, Colorado. And this is a 90% llama, 10% silk blend in a DK weight. It's 150 yards to this skein, and the color is called hazelnut. And this is just the natural color of the fleece of the llama. It's not dyed or anything, and I think hazelnut is kind of a perfect name for it. It's a really lovely, toasty, warm brown color with these beautiful little flecks of a cream color all throughout the yarn. And I'm just guessing that these flecks are the 10% silk content, but I'm not exactly sure. It could be that the flecks are also llama fiber in a different color, in just like a natural white color. So I'm not quite sure about that, but either way, I think it will knit up to be really pretty with all these little flecks in it. This stood out to me partially because I've never seen llama fiber for sale in any sort of a yarn shop that I've been to, either online or like a local yarn store. Alpaca seems to be much more common, but I thought that the llama sounded really interesting, and then when I came to get a feel for it, it is really, really lovely and soft, really squishy. So I've never even really worked with alpaca fiber. Maybe I've worked with an alpaca blend, but nothing that is, you know, mostly alpaca or llama type fiber. So that aspect is going to be new for me. I'm going to have to really think about what type of a project I'm going to want to make with it, because I know that llama and alpaca fiber do behave quite differently than a wool from like a sheep's wool. So I'll have to keep that in mind when I'm choosing a project, because I know that they can sort of stretch out and not have the tendency to come back like sheep's wool does. So I don't want to have make something and have it stretch out more than I want it to. So I also got at the same booth, the Tall Tale Ranch booth, I got this skein right here, which is a natural white color, And this one is 80% llama and 20% merino in a sport weight, and it's 300 yards, and the colorway is called Ivory. I got this potentially to pair with this, even though they are two different weights. It might not be an issue. It might be an issue. It might not be an issue. I didn't exactly have a specific project in mind when I bought these yarns here. But I was thinking maybe generally something along the lines of a shawl or a capelet or something, just something drapey like that. A scarf, a shawl, a wrap, a cape, something like that. And if I wanted to, I could use this natural creamy white color in addition to, or in conjunction with this hazelnut color to play off of the flecks that are in this brown yarn here. I think that would play really nicely if I did any sort of color work at all, some sort of motif. I did generally want to have general pattern ideas when I bought each yarn. I didn't want to just totally blindly buy yarn. I find it kind of difficult to have a yarn and then find a pattern rather than have a pattern or an idea for a pattern and then find a yarn to fit it, if that makes any sense. So I did want to have at least a vague notion of what I'm going to make with it. So yeah, I do have a vague notion for this. Nothing specific. So since I have 4 of these brown ones in 150 yards, that's a total of 600 yards, which should be enough for a shawl or wrap or cape or something in that general category. So yeah, especially if I add this color into it. But also, I don't know, if you see these yarns that I'm showing you and you have any interesting ideas of what I could do with them when I don't have a specific project in mind, definitely feel free to leave a comment what you think down below. Yeah, I would appreciate the advice, especially if you've worked with llama or alpaca before, because this is something that's new to me. So any advice, ideas, tips would be greatly appreciated on that. Okay, so let's move on to the next yarn. So here's the next yarn that I have. It is from a brand called Enchanted Fibers, and they seem to be located in Colorado as well, from Bennett, Colorado. It comes from Chimera Ranch, and this is a really lovely, if I can find it, it's a really lovely 80% alpaca, 20% camel/silk blend. I'm not sure what the camel/silk means, if it means that it's 20% of it is just some mixture of camels and silk that they're not exact about. I'm not really sure, but whatever it is really lovely feeling. It's a DK weight and it is 200 yards. And I've got 3 of them, so that's 600 yards in total again. And it is this really lovely color. It is probably showing up close to black on camera. I'm not exactly sure. But I think it's like a very, very, very deep brown color, actually. And in addition to that, it has these really lovely jewel tone colors spun into the black, the natural dark brown alpaca fiber. So it's got like little flecks of purples, greens, some blues, almost like sort of galaxy-esque effect, I guess, when you pair it with such a dark color. But it's also very, very subtle, which I like. So you kind of have to get really up close to it to really see that effect. And I think that's really, really beautiful and really unique, which is what drew me to it. I mean, of course, what also drew me to it is just how incredibly soft it is, soft and squishy. It's amazing. I mean, a blend of alpaca, silk, and camel is going to be lovely, and it is lovely. I can vouch for that. I wish I could have you feel this through the screen, because it's just, it's also nice. So this one was actually I guess it's sort of my yarn, sort of my sister's yarn. It's my yarn in that I will be knitting with it, and it's my sister's yarn in that I'm gonna make her something out of it. Probably another shawl or sweater or wrap or something like that. I don't think I'm being incredibly imaginative here with my ideas for the alpaca and camel fibers, but she said she would like a shawl or something out of it. So that is what I shall do, and I just need to find a good pattern for that. Oh, and also from this same little stall that we went to, we just picked up these. This one and this one. These very cute little alpacas. I think they're alpacas. Yeah, they're little needle felted alpacas. One is white with brown and black spots, and one is brown with white and brown and all sorts of color spots. And they are both very cute. There's one for my sister and one for me. I don't know what I should name mine though. This one's mine over here. This is my sister's. I have not thought of a good name, so if you can think of a good name for my little alpaca, and maybe for my sister's alpaca too. What shall we call them? What do they look like to you? Very deep, important questions. Okay, moving on. So these next 3 yarns are from a brand called Vortex Yarns, which is located in Taos, New Mexico. And this specific yarn, actually all 3 of these yarns, are the mandala yarn. They're 100% merino, non-superwash fingering, and it's 437 yards per 100 grams. And I got these 3 colors. I got the larch, which is this green variegated, maybe. Would you call this a variegated or a tonal, or I don't know. I'm a little aside here, but I'm deeply confused by the variegated versus tonal versus semi-solid distinctions in yarn colors. And I had maybe not an argument, but let's call it like a very impassioned conversation with my sister over this like 2 nights ago, because she's an art major basically, and she has some very strict definitions of colors, and let's just say she's passionate about her knowledge of color, and I kept looking up different definitions of tonal versus variegated versus semi-solid online, and she kept sort of yelling at them, disagreeing with them, coming up with her own definitions. So honestly, at this point, I'm pretty lost with the definition of what these are. To me, unless it says here, no, but to me, I would consider this to be maybe variegated, because, gosh, I'm so confused, because it's going from This could be either variegated or tonal, I feel like, because in my mind, variegated is going from one color family to another different color family, whereas a tonal is shifting between different shades, or shades of the same color family. So I don't know, let me know what you think about this green one. So would you consider this to be a tonal or variegated? Is it going between different colors of green, or is it going through sort of bluish green to yellowish green, or greenish yellow, I guess? And does that make it a variegated yarn? I don't know. I'm extremely confused. I need help with this. Please let me know if you have the knowledge on this stuff. So semantic confusion over colorway terminology aside, why don't I actually show you these colors in a little bit more detail, which is, I'm sure, what is more interesting about this. So first we have this green yarn, which the colorway is called Larch, and I'll show it. Hopefully the camera can pick up all of the little changes in color and the detail of it. But it's kind of it's a little bit of a grassier green that goes into some more yellowy parts in some areas, and then some darker parts like here with some blue undertones, and actually maybe a little bit of black undertones as well. And kind of in between that we have just some more grassy greens. I think it's really, really lovely color. I tend to think personally when I see variegated, whatever it may be, variegated yarns, I don't tend to gravitate towards the ones that go between a whole lot of colors, like purple, yellow, red, orange, green, all sorts of different colors. But I do really love ones like this that do have the change in color, but it's more on the subtle side while still being really beautiful and interesting. The next yarn I have is this bluish greenish color, and the colorway name is Beetle. And I think that's pretty fitting because it does kind of remind me of the beetle elytra, I think they're called. They're like the part of the wings of the beetle that have that sort of greenish bluish iridescent effect. This one definitely is more on the blue side, but it does have that green undertone to it, and it does shift between colors. Like we'll have a darker blue here, and then a lighter blue with more green undertones here, and I think it's even more green in a section like this, and then going back to more of a blue, dark blue, and green blue. So that's just a really, really pretty color. And finally, I have this red color. The colorway is called Clove. And this is the least sort of, what's the word I'm looking for? More word confusion. The least variable, variegated, changeable, tonal, whatever you may call it, out of the three. It's a very lovely red color, kind of, I don't know how to describe it. It's called Clove, and I'm not sure if, because clove makes me think of the spice, which when you buy the spice, it's like a brown, toasted sort of brown color. But maybe, I don't know, does clove come from a berry? because this is sort of berry colored. Kind of reminds me of like a holly berry maybe. So I'll just show it to the camera because I can't really come up with good descriptive words right now for this color other than it's very pretty. So there you have those three colors, and these I actually do have a very specific project in mind for them when I picked them up. And it comes from this book that I recently got called A Stitch in Time, Knitting and Crochet Patterns of the 20s, 30s, and 40s. This was published, I think, in 1972 or 3. Yeah, the cover is definitely giving me, you know, like the early 70s Biba look vibes. But let me show you the pattern. I think it's way in the back of this. Not that far back. Here it is. So it's from Women's Weekly, January 22nd, 1949. And it's called A Gay Fair Isle Pullover. And it's got this really pretty Fair Isle motif that sort of emulates flowers and is just sort of a basic vest. But I guess what's different about it is that it's got this sort of plunging lower scoop neck design. And on this page, I think you can see the image quality is a little bit better. And on this side of the page, you can see the motif in a little bit better detail, or I guess a lot better detail with this up close. So the original pattern calls for a pink color, a green color, and a brown color, in addition to a natural color for the main background body color of the vest. So I'm going to be using this red color instead of pink for the flower parts. This green color as my green, and instead of a brown, I just fell in love with this blue color, bluish greenish color here. So I think that's still going to be a really nice color combination, even if it deviates a little bit from what they call for. So these three colors are just my contrast colors for the stranded color work part of it, but of course I needed a background color in kind of a neutral. The pattern calls for a natural color, so something kind of oatmeal-y colored is kind of what I assumed that meant. But you know, I'm sure like a cream would also look nice. It just depends on how much contrast I want between the background and these colors. So what I did end up finding a yarn that I thought would work for the background. And that is these yarns from Huck and Ray Fiber Studio. It's called Moe Chandon, that's the colorway. It's just sort of like a light oat kind of color, a natural, if you will. I'm really great at describing these. And it's 246 yards per 100 grams. And if I had really thought about what I just read at the time of buying this, maybe I would have realized that this is in fact not the same weight of yarn as these. These are fingering weight, 437 yards to 100 grams, and this is 246 yards to 100 grams. So clearly this is a much heavier yarn than this, so it's not going to work out. And if I had actually read the label really closely, I would have seen that it says Classic DK right there. And what I think I did was I bamboozled myself because I saw here that it said 4-ply yarn. And since I've been reading old, British knitting patterns, they use sort of like 2 and 3 ply yarns, and I think the modern British equivalent of an American fingering weight yarn is called 4 ply. I could be wrong, but that's what I had in my brain. So I saw 4 ply yarn on this and I read it as fingering weight, but what it actually is a DK weight made out of 4 plies. So I very much bamboozled myself on that one, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. I still have, let's see, I have 738 yards of this in a DK weight, so I guess that's just a bonus project for me. I think I could probably make like a vest out of this. So you know what? Not the end of the world. I just I had to find an actual background color for these guys since these don't work out. But you know what? Bonus project. I'm not upset about it, and it's a lovely yarn. But anyway, I still look forward to using this yarn and maybe like making a little vest out of it or something. That is some other kind of vest, not the colorwork vest I was just talking about. Sorry if that was confusing. This is going to be the 1940 or 1949 colorwork vest. This is destined for some other project because I got the wrong weight of yarn. So, and also I realized this is a superwash merino, whereas these are non-superwash merinos. So in the end, even if this had been the right weight, I feel like the superwash to non-superwash may have posed a problem. I'm not 100% sure that it would have been a problem, but if I had to rebuy some yarn anyway, I could at least look for something non-superwash to make sure that it doesn't, mess it up in some way, mess up the color work. So I was able to find online, as a replacement for the background color, this yarn, which is a pretty close color, and in fact it is called Oat. It's Caslon Fingering in Oat by Enchanted Fibers, and it is a 100% Corriedale, 400 yards per 100 grams, so yes, this time it is much closer to those, so that should work out fine. It's a 3 ply, and yeah, I've never actually worked with Corriedale fiber in a yarn, so that should be interesting, and I think it'll pair well with the non-superwash merino. So all of this is non-superwash, so I do feel a little more confident about that aspect of it. I think there could have been problems with using a superwash with non-superwash yarns. So yeah, that just gives me a little more confidence for that. One very interesting thing that I was able to get was these. These are 4 cards or bobbins of embroidery thread. It's hand spun embroidery thread, and it's also naturally dyed. So this red is, I think, can I remember? Oh, this red is dyed with madder. The yellow is dyed with marigold. The blue is dyed with indigo. And this green, I think, is probably a mixture of dyes because they don't specify one particular plant dye that they used. And these are, I saved the little bag it came in, so it's from the Dye Smith at dyesmithfibers.com if you're curious. And these are 50% merino wool and 50% Okay, let's attempt to be able to talk. Okay, 50% merino and 50% tussa silk, and It's 12 yards on each of these cards, and it looks to me to be a 2-ply. So yeah, I thought these were really cool. This color palette is kind of giving, I don't know, a little bit medieval vibes, perhaps. That's what my sister was telling me when I was picking them out, at least. So I trust that. I trust that. Yeah, they're just really beautiful, and I'm definitely going to wait for my embroidery skills to improve before I even touch these, because I don't know, I think I would absolutely ruin them in whatever project I made right now with them, with my very poor embroidery skills at the moment. But embroidery is definitely something I'm interested in working on and improving upon in the near future. So yeah, that's part of the reason why I got these, because I can see myself definitely diving more into embroidery in the near future. I've gotten a couple of like secondhand embroidery transfer books. I picked up a book on embroidery stitches at the library, so I'm kind of headed in that direction. One other thing I saw at one of the booths that I thought was cool is they had some examples knit up in their yarn, so you could, you know, go up and see the colors as they are in a knitted garment, see how they knit up, and you could touch the garment and see how it feels. But in front of each garment, they would have these cards that actually showed what the pattern was that they had knitted up. So I took a few of the cards because I thought they were some really nice patterns that I was interested in. So yeah, you could see on this card, it tells you what the pattern is, who the pattern designer is, and they have a little QR code right here, so you can scan it and see it on Ravelry. And then what is really nice is on the back, they gave you the finished bust circumference and the sizes, and then what materials you would need, and the needle sizes. So it would make it really easy to pick out yarn using these little cards. I thought that was really smart of them and really helpful. So very inspiring for me to get yarn. Maybe a little dangerous, in fact. Dangerous for my wallet, that is. So yeah, they show like which yarn they knit the example with, which one of their particular yarns they knit the example with, and they showed or wrote down which colorways they used in particular to make this example. So I just thought that was such a good idea, and thought I would share that with you. So now I have all of these different patterns as ideas for the future, because I thought they were all really pretty. So this one is the Field Sweater by Camilla Vard. And this one is the Golden Fern by Jennifer Steingrass. This one is the Great Gingham Raglan by Jessie Made Designs. And this one is the Bifurka Vest by Teti Lutzak. Apologies for any horrific pronunciations there. But yeah, I especially loved this vest. I find it really unique and really beautiful. But oh man, I already have so many things on my queue, so many things to knit, so little time. It's on there somewhere, but maybe it's probably like 100th in line at this point. So they say that like buying yarn and knitting are two different hobbies, but I think that knitting and browsing for patterns / planning out projects that's a completely different craft too. Just spending like 2 hours on Ravelry straight, going through stuff, putting it in your queue, planning what kind of yarn you want to use, that's a completely different hobby in my opinion. So now I'm going to move on from what I got at the Fiber Festival to what my sister got, the yarns that my sister got at the Fiber Festival. So I thought I would start out with this one, and a bunch of these are already wound up into cakes, partially because she's getting started on some stuff, and also because she will be without a yarn winder fairly soon, so she wanted to get that done so that she doesn't have to wind a whole bunch of skeins by hand, which would be very tedious. So this first skein is a lovely bright red color, and it's from, if I can see the label without pulling it completely out, the Dye Smith, which is a natural dyed company. They use completely natural dyes for all of their yarns, or at least for most of them from what I could see when I was in the booth. And this one in particular is dyed with madder, so that's what gives it this really bright red color. I don't know if it's showing up on camera the same way that it does in real life, but I think that's fairly accurate to what it is. It's a really lovely color. It's almost hard to describe what kind of red it is, but it's really, really beautiful. And it's even got some flecks of black throughout it. And if you can see, I'm not sure if you can, there is a little bit of a halo to it, and that is from the fiber makeup, which is also really interesting. It's made up of, if I can read this, 52% silk, 24% mohair, which gives it that halo, 20% fine merino, and 4% viscose. And it's a fingering weight yarn and is 437 yards. So this is probably 100 grams. So she's thinking of knitting up a mini scarf or smaller sized scarf with this single skein of yarn. And she has a couple ideas in terms of patterns. She hasn't completely decided which one exactly she wants to do, but just in terms of like the idea she's going for. I'll throw the picture up on the screen so you can see. One of them is called the Ambar scarf. It's on Ravelry, and it's by a designer called Rosiane. And it's in fingering weight. It uses 164 to 186 yards, so we should have plenty with this. And it has a really nice sort of textured, kind of lacy pattern to it. And it has two very pointed ends to it. So that's one of the options. The other one is called the Meander scarf. It's by Catherine Salter Bayard, also on Ravelry, also using fingering weight, and uses this time 430 to 435 yards. So that's about exactly what this skein is. This is 437, so it might be a slight game of chicken depending on gauge and things like that. This scarf is definitely a bit bigger. It's a little bit more bandana-like in shape, but it has a really pretty texture to it, as well as some sections of open eyelets. So that's really pretty. I'm not sure which one she's going to do, but those are two options that she told me about. And I think a scarf in this really bright red color is going to look really, really nice, and it's going to feel really good too, because it is 52% silk. It's very soft, really luxurious feeling. So there's that one. And the next one is actually multiple yarns. It's kind of like a group of yarns, if you will. And they're all caked up again, but fear not, because I have B-roll footage that I'll play of some of these while they were still in hanks, so you can see kind of the difference in color between the cake and the hank, and also some footage of winding them up. Just because, I don't know, it's fun to look at. I enjoy watching a yarn swift. I don't know about you. It's a little bit of a relaxing, meditative process to partake in and to watch. So this one is actually different from the rest of these, so I'll start with these ones. These are all from a brand called Greenwood Fiber, or just Greenwood. It's a hand-dyed fiber company. Hello, it is editing me, and this is an impromptu voiceover because my microphone at this point decided to make me sound like a terrifying cyborg thing. Made my voice slightly horrifying, so I'm going to just voice over this part really quick. The yarns here are called Indulgence, that's the name of the base. It's 75% superwash merino wool, 15% cashmere, and 10% silk. And I have to say the name Indulgence is very fitting because it is incredibly, incredibly soft, and I just want to pet it forever. Yeah, I think that's it. Okay, done with the voiceover. Bye. This green one, the colorway name is Emerald, and I can't be confused about what sort of type of dyeing this is because it did say on the label that this is a variegated yarn, so I'm adding this to my memory bank to try and be able to figure out what counts as variegated and what counts as a tonal or a semi-solid. So this is apparently variegated. And you can see how it goes from some grassier greens to some darker greens with maybe a touch of blue in them to some very yellowy greens. It definitely looks, it looks very different wound up in a cake versus when it's in the hank, and I'm interested in seeing how it will look up once it's, or how it will look once it's knitted up. How different it's going to look. This blue is the colorway Denim, and it's a semi-solid, so there's just like a tiny, tiny bit of variation in the blue dye. It's very, very subtle, and I don't even know if the camera's going to be able to pick it up, but it's a very pretty blue color. And finally, this is just a black color, but actually when we bought it, we thought it was a really, really dark blue. But no, in fact, it's black, actually. But I think the fact that it has some shine to it from the silk makes it a less intense black, so that could be why we thought it was a very dark blue color. Either way, it's going to look really nice with the rest of the colors, so that doesn't really matter. So as for what she is going to make with all of these yarns here, she's going to make a colorwork sweater, kind of inspired by approximately 20 different sweater patterns that she found. But I'd say primarily the dark academia sweater, which I'll throw up a picture of so you can see what that looks like. She's primarily inspired by that one, and she's going for motifs that are kind of inspired by Gothic architecture, and just basically working up her own design for it. I also found a pattern on Ravelry called Strange Brew by Tin Can Knits, and it's basically a sweater recipe, and I saw a whole lot of different sweaters with different colorwork motifs made up using this pattern, this sweater recipe, so I think it would be a really good one for her to use to kind of copy paste her own colorwork design that she's cooking up onto it. And that's where this yellow yarn comes in. She thought she might want one more accent color to set off the darker colors and the green, so she got this yellow color. And she didn't get this at the Fiber Festival. She got this the same place I got my replacement background natural color for my Fair Isle vest. We ordered that from La Mercerie, which is I think it's a store in, correct me if I'm wrong, Washington maybe. But anyway, we ordered from there, and this yellow color it's by Magpie Fibers, and it's called Swanky Sock in the colorway Gold Digger. And on camera, it actually looks slightly different from in real life. I would say in reality, it has a little bit more of a mustardy look to it than it does on camera. It's a tiny bit more muted. It looks a little bit bright on the camera. But this is 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, and 10% nylon. So it's not all that different to this in terms of the fiber content. So she's going to use this as an additional color if she feels like she needs it, or there needs to be another bit of contrast to her color work. It's a little bit playing it by ear, but don't worry, this is very on brand for her. I trust her to come up with something amazing. So we'll just have to wait and see where that heads, what she creates with this. So what is next? Finally, we have this yarn that she picked up at a booth called Haute Bohème Fibers. And this one is also hand-dyed. It's called Mimi Fingering, and it's 100% superwash merino, 438 yards per 100 grams. And it is the colorway Pine from the palette The Rockies, although this is kind of, in my sister and I's opinion, a bit on the chartreuse side for that. I am currently looking at a pine tree outside of my window, and not to be nitpicky, but to be extremely nitpicky, this is more of a chartreuse color. So, but you can see it's a really, really pretty colorway. And you're also going to have to tell me, do you think this is a variegated or is it a tonal? I don't think it's a, what is it called? Gosh. I don't think it's a semi-solid, but is it a variegated or a tonal? You'll have to let me know, because I don't even know what's what anymore. So what is she using this for? She's going to also make a scarf with this, but she's pairing it with another yarn that she did find at another booth at the Fiber Festival. It was the 6 and 7 fiber booth, which is another hand-dyed fiber, another hand-dyed yarn booth. And she got the alfalfa base in the color mahogany, and I can throw up a picture of that too so you can see, because we don't have the yarn currently. The vendor only had one skein of it, and my sister needed 2 skeins, so she just ordered that from her. So it's actually being dyed to order, and we're just waiting on that to come in. But I think it's going to be a really lovely color combination, the deep reddish, brownish mahogany color with this chartreuse. It's going to be really unique and really pretty, I think. So since we ordered that yarn at the Fiber Festival, the vendor actually gave us free shipping, which was really nice. So hopefully that will come in soon. And to give you an idea of the kind of scarf she's thinking of making out of it, one of the ideas she had is called Scalene by Karina Spencer. It's on Ravelry, and it looks like you can use all sorts of different yarns for it and sort of make it different sizes. And it's got a very pretty shape to it, a very kind of unique shape to it with what looks like a little keyhole to pass one of the ends through. Yeah, it's got a keyhole, so that's pretty cool. I think that looks really nice. And the other pattern that she's thinking of is called Eiffel Gold, and that's by Melanie Berg on Ravelry as well. This one does call for a sport weight, but I don't think that it will make that much of a difference. Probably just affect the size a little bit if she goes for this pattern. But yeah, some sort of a color work, two-tone, larger scarf slash shawl thing. That's what she has in mind for these yarns. So yeah, that is everything for my sister's yarns. I've gone over all of my yarns, and yeah, that felt like quite a lot of stuff. I think it was quite a lot of things. So yeah, that's everything. Okay, I lied. I'm back. There is actually one more thing. One very last thing that I have to show you. I forgot about it because it wasn't yarn. It is a braid of fiber, because I have just recently, within the past several months, started spinning because I got a secondhand spinning wheel and I've been having a lot of fun with it. So when I saw this, I thought it would be really fun to get a hand-dyed braid to try spinning. And this is interesting because, not only because of the colorway, it's got these teal blues, a light teal blue, a dark teal blue, and these sort of coppery browns, from really coppery to darker with more gray in it. In different areas, it kind of reminds me of copper, the different stages of copper as it ages, how it turns sort of bluish greenish over time. So I don't know, I think that's really pretty, and I'm interested to see how it spins up, although I have kind of a large spinning thing that I'm doing right now that's taking me quite a bit of time, so I'm going to have to wait a little bit to start spinning with this. But this braid comes from the 100th Sheep Artisan Crafted Fiber and Yarns, and specifically the color is called Beneath the Boughs. It's a 6-ounce braid, and it is made up of 75% blue-faced Leicester wool and 25% Tussa silk, and it's hand-dyed. So what's interesting is I've never actually worked with blue-faced Leicester wool before, either in yarn, knitting, or crocheting with it, or spinning. So this will be interesting, and it's very, very squishy, very soft, squishy. But I like how you can see, I think this strand going through here, these kind of lighter strands are the silk. I could be wrong, but that's my best guess. So it'll be interesting to see how that incorporates into it when I spin it up. That should actually be the very last thing that I got at this fiber festival. So yeah, there it is. You have seen everything that I have acquired at my first fiber festival, and everything my sister acquired, and it was her first fiber festival too. So that was a really fun experience overall. I had a great time. I'm really, really glad that I got to go. I guess I was aware of the existence of this festival for quite a long time, but to be honest, I really wasn't sure whether or not I'd be able to go at all. It was really up in the air until the last minute. Even though it is somewhat local to me, depending on your definition of local, yeah, I wasn't completely sure if I'd be able to participate, just because my health can be so complex and variable. There's no way for me to look ahead even a day or two to know exactly how I'm gonna feel. But luckily I had the support of my sister and my mom with me. So really that was what was able to make it happen, having them with me, helping me. So I'm really thankful about that. I'm really happy they were able to come and enjoy this with me. And luckily my sister is also a knitter, so it wasn't like I had to drag them kicking and screaming to this. She could partake too. And my mom, well, she crochets actually, but she didn't get anything. She's just being supportive and tolerant of my interests, my very specific interests. And I was able to kind of come up with a system with my sister and my mom where my sister could, or when I got tired or I needed to pace a little bit, I could find a place to sit down, and then I would send my sister out as the scout to go to different booths and see what kind of things they have and report back to me so that I could kind of allocate my energy to specific things where I knew there would be something that interested me. So she would kind of report back to me, and then I could come up with a game plan for how I wanted to go through the festival, which booths I wanted to prioritize. So that was really helpful. And of course, my mom being a coffee gopher was integral to this festival. I don't think we could have made it without that. It was really cool to kind of just engage with fiber arts in a new way, I guess. Just kind of going to somewhere in person with all these other people with the same interests as you. It's a very new way to experience it, because a lot of how I experience fiber arts and such, the community is online. And so actually being able to see and talk with and meet with people who have the same interests was really, really nice. I got to chat with a few really, really nice people, and it just felt really good. I don't know. I don't think I can be super eloquent about that, but it just, yeah. So yeah, thank you so very much for making it this far in the video and listening to me ramble on and on and on about all of my acquisitions from this fiber festival. I hope that my mostly unscripted talking made some amount of sense. I hope it was a little bit coherent at least. But yeah, let me know if you've ever been to a fiber festival, if you went to one this year, what you think about them in general. Do you like larger fiber festivals, smaller ones, anything like that? I would love to know. And yeah, if you made it this far in the video, maybe I can do one of those things where I say, leave a specific emoji. I'll say, leave the yarn emoji. I think there's a yarn emoji. There has to be, right? Yeah, okay. There's definitely a yarn emoji. I just had to look that up to make sure. Leave a yarn emoji if you made it this far. It'll be my way of telling that you're a trooper for making it all the way through my video, listening to my voice this long. I hope you stick around and like and subscribe and do all of those YouTube things that help me out. And yeah, thank you. Bye.